Art History Online presents The Scream by Edvard Munch. Edvard Munch is a Norwegian artist associated with Symbolism and seen as a precursor of Expressionism. Munch made The Scream in 1893. It is his most famous painting. The original title of this painting is in German, Der Schrei der Natur, literally The Scream of Nature. The painting is hung in the National Gallery in Oslo, the capital of Norway. The painting has a modest size. It measures 91 by 73.5 centimeters. Even though The Scream in Oslo is the most famous version Munch made, it isn't the only one. He actually made 4 versions of this picture. The first is the one you've already seen, an oil, tempera and pastel painting on cardboard, made in 1893. It was stolen in 1994, but was recovered undamaged within 3 months. The second is a pastel, also made in 1893. It is hung in the Munch Museum in Oslo. In 2004 the pastel version was stolen. After 2 years it was recovered, but with some moisture damage. The Munch Museum also has a 1910 tempera on cardboard version in its collection. A pastel of the year 1895 is in private hands. It broke the auction record and was sold for almost $120 million at the Sotheby's auction on the 2nd of May 2012. It is the highest amount ever paid for a painting at an auction. Besides these 4 versions, Munch also made a lithograph stone, so the picture could be reproduced. To understand the artist's motivation, and in particular the meaning of this painting, we'll first have to address Munch's family history. In Munch's family, ill health and mental illness are recurrent. He once said, "Illness, insanity and death were the black angels that kept watch over my cradle and accompanied me all my life." Through his life, Munch himself was troubled with alcoholism, emotional crisis, and nervous breakdowns. The themes in his art are greatly influenced by this family history of sickness. He, for example, made The Sick Child in memory of his sister, who died at the age of 14 when Munch was 5 years old. As you can see by looking at Munch's early painting The Sick Child, he at first worked in the academic tradition, rooted in French romantic realism of the Barbizon school and in German lyrical naturalism. In between 1889 and 1892, Munch lived in Paris, where he encountered post-impressionist art, for example by Vincent van Gogh and Paul Gauguin. The expression through color by these painters greatly influenced Munch. Since Paris, Munch's art became more expressionist and symbolic. Throughout his life, Munch was exploring the spiritual. He was an intuitive person and artist, responding highly sensitive to nature and culture around him. In his art, he could channel the strong emotions he experienced. His approach was also intensely literary and mystical. Though being severely critiqued by Norwegian and German critics, he continued making emotionally tortured works, among which his series The Frieze of Life. In this series, the recurring theme is the anguish caused by love, illness and death. The Scream of Nature is part of this series. The Scream depicts an abstracted landscape with a central figure and 2 figures in the background on the left. The image is constructed of brushstrokes and pastel lines of different thicknesses. We can't see any sharp contours. The composition exists of 3 main lines: in the railing, along the path connecting the separate figures, in the horizon framing the water, and a line along what seems to be the foot of the hill or the town. In the middle of this composition, a swirl emphasizes the water level. Along the main lines, smaller lines are drawn, dynamic, curving lines expanding like a ripple effect. The placement of several figurative elements, the main figure, the man in the background, and 2 boats, though abstracted, give a sense of space and distance. The main lines of the composition also distinguish the separate color patches: the brown land, the blue water, partly lit by the sun, and the orange-red sky. The contrasting colors in the road and the sky create an energetic sensation. The lines seem to be shooting backward, like a sound wave expanding outward from its source, clashing with the wild curves of the burning sky. In the prologue of Expressionism, Munch's emphasis on the expression of the inner experience over the naturalistic detail is radical. The use of strong colors, simplified forms, and dynamic lines intensify the emotional power of this picture. But besides being part of the frieze of life, what does the scream signify? Why is nature screaming, or is Munch? Is it a cry for help, or a cry of desperation? Munch described how he came to make the painting. One evening I was walking along a path. The city was on one side and the fjord below. I felt tired and ill. I stopped and looked out over the fjord. The sun was setting and the clouds turning blood red. I sensed a scream passing through nature. It seemed to me that I heard the scream. I painted this picture, painted the clouds as actual blood. The color shrieked. This became the scream. According to Arneson, the scream is an agonized shriek, translated into bands of color that echo like sound waves across the landscape and through the blood-red sky. As Munch walked across a bridge, he was seized with despair and felt a great, infinite scream pass through nature. The landscape in the painting is the view of the Christiania Fjord from a road called Valhavveien on Ekeberg Hill next to Oslo. The hill and the park on top were popular places for the citizens of Oslo to visit and for artists to paint. The red skies could be inspired by the blood-red colored sky in the wake of the volcanic eruption of Krakatoa in Indonesia, which Europe witnessed not long before Munch painted the scream. And who are those figures in the background? Are they part of Munch's inner landscape, or bystanders? Are they simply walking by, or passing judgment? It is thought that they either are his friends that accompanied him up the hill, or that they represent a critiquing mass. Munch understood despair and the pain of feeling judged, isolated, or misunderstood. A hand-painted poem on the frame of the 1895 pastel version of the scream, Munch confirms the first assumption, but that doesn't exclude the second meaning. I was walking along the road with two friends. The sun was setting. Suddenly the sky turned blood red. I paused, feeling exhausted, and leaned on the fence. There was blood and tongues of fire above the blue-black fjord and the city. My friends walked on, and I stood there, trembling with anxiety, and I sensed an infinite scream passing through nature. But the most pressing question is, who is the remarkable figure in the foreground? It seems an ambiguous race, sex, and ageless creature. Its hands are held to its head, and from its mouth derives a silent screech. The dynamic lines and the intense colors shoot into the landscape and amplify this unheard scream. It is thought that this asexual being is inspired by a Peruvian mummy on display at the World Exhibition of 1889 in Paris. The figure could represent Munch, or personify nature, or even both. The scream is mainly seen as a symbol of modern anxiety and alienation. Munch felt discontented with the evolving modern world and its irreversible impact on nature. The anxieties portrayed in the scream and other paintings by Munch are a more general and ambiguous expression rather than a specific one. In this case, it's a howl of anxiety for modernization and its effects on nature. Without a doubt, it is a result of Munch's tortured psyche. The scream has been a substantial source of inspiration for pop culture. It has been parodied hundreds of times in cartoons, but has also been reproduced in art. For example, Arrow with his The Second Dream, or Ding Dong. Even Andy Warhol. You might know the cartoons Wiener Dog Art by Carrie Larson. And do you remember the film poster for Home Alone? And the Halloween mask, Ghostface, used in the Scream horror movies. Also, the silence in the sci-fi TV show Doctor Who is inspired by the scream. In just a few minutes you've learned the major facts about the scream by Edvard Munch. What makes this painting so appealing are its powerful color palette, the dynamic use of lines and composition, and its enigmatic motives. The scream might evoke more questions than could be answered, but especially this ambiguous and radical character gives it the ability to bear so many meanings and allows it to speak to so many people throughout generations. Thank you for watching this video by Art History Online. For questions and requests, please comment.